Hi, everybody. Welcome to Grassroots Warrior Network. This is your host, Lee Milteer, and I am the blonde warrior for solutions in troubling times. Now, please notice the links below and share and like my show. And do please consider a subscription to our network or a donation, since we are 100% at this time without any sponsors, and literally everybody's working for free to bring you solutions and light to those who are our viewers. Today, I have with me a gem of a person who I'm going to interview. I truly admire him, and we've become friends over the last couple of years. And clearly, we're on the same page as supporters of people to give advice and options on how to deal with the insanity that has taken the world. So, Robert Imbriale is a lifelong student of personal development, like myself, a best-selling author, a speaker, a coach, and a fantastic host of Renegade Media TV. Now, like myself, Robert completely believes in the power of inner guidance and is passionate about helping people navigate their lives during these troubling times. Now, he has a very impressive resume. He was the head coach for Tony Robbins' franchise for a number of years. He coached more than 2,000 people one-on-one. Then he started his own coaching practice, focusing on helping entrepreneurs and small business owners. And he's the author of a very good best-selling book called Motivational Marketing. And the foreword was written by one of his long-term mentors, who you and I both know, Dan Kennedy. He is currently hosting an online show and a Telegram channel, Renegade Media News, where he shares information not found on mainstream media. And I do want you to check out his TV show. He offers free resources on his website, renegademedia.tv. Okay, Robert, thank you so much for being here today.
Lee, it's such a pleasure to be with you. You know, we have such great conversations. I'm looking forward to this because I know we're going to light the screen on fire today for people.
Well, yes, I mean, like you, we're sort of unpaid warriors at the moment.
We are.
And you and I joked that after all this chaos is over, we're definitely going to be part of the cleanup crew of helping people see through all the lies and deceptions and cruelty that has been sadly thrust upon them. So, what I wanted to do today, especially with you, is let's give some people some real life solutions. So, I think one of the problems all of us are having is we used to have a lot of friends. We used to be welcome to all of our family gatherings. But then, we came out and shared our truth, which we know from the inner part of ourselves to be true. It aligns with truth. We know we're sharing truth. So let's talk about dealing with all those people who've rejected us.
Well, it's a great place to start. Let's go back to the beginning, though, because why do we have such a division in society, and worse now between family members, spouses? I've heard so many couples getting divorced because one believes what's going on, one doesn't, or one's believing the media narrative and one isn't. And it's like, so is it intentional? And my guess is yes, it is intentional, because nobody makes mistakes that consistently on that many levels and that many channels, right? So obviously this is a play. And so you might ask the question, so what's the benefit of keeping us all separate? Well, let's go back to COVID, right? What happened during COVID? They said, don't get close to grandma. If you breathe on her, you're killer. So what did everyone do? All the families got what? Divided, right? So the wife was wearing the mask. The husband said no, and they would start battling at that level. And when you look at what they did, they said, we want you to be distanced 6 feet apart. They called it social distancing. I call it anti-social distancing, right? What did they did? They didn't want us to be connected. Why? Because when we're connected, we're strong. When we're disconnected, we are
Weak.
We're weak, right? We're solo. And that's really what they started to do to us. And so a lot of us, you, me, so many in our community realized that pretty quickly. I mean, for me, COVID was over on April 15th, 2020. That was it. I stopped buying it at that point. Then I knew it was just a game, and they were playing us, and we had to, get beyond that and start moving. And I started to do a lot in that area to help people really understand that, you got to pay attention to the media narrative. The media narrative plays a game, and you and I in marketing might do this same thing called future pacing. In NLP, it's very common, right? So you might say, hey, if you join my club, I'm going to teach you how to become a millionaire. Now, imagine yourself a year from now, a millionaire. Imagine, never having to worry about money again. Imagine going into Costco and filling up that cart, never even thinking about the price of anything, right? So we future pace and we say, okay, that's an image that we've created. Well, sadly, the media picked up on this and they do the same thing, but they do it in the negative. They do it against us. So anything can be used positively or negatively. So when you're listening to mainstream media, as an example, one of the things that they'll do is they'll give you a little bit of fact, and then they'll say what that could mean is, now they're going into opinion, right? And now they're future pacing. What that could mean is blah, blah, blah. And they paint this really, really dark picture. Why do they do that? Well, they want to keep you watching. And you're not going to watch if you're not in fear. If you got to be in fear to watch. So what happened with all the separation is you had one family member listening to mainstream media, one family member saying, hey, no, I'm going to listen to alternative media. I think there's more truth here. And the person who's in a lot of fear, what do? What's their reaction? Is it a loving reaction toward the partner who's not believing it? No, they actually get angry, right? And there's even more division, more separation. And we still see it. I mean, I don't know about you, where you are, but I still see people. I was at the bank the other day and the teller had an N95 mask on and gloves. Guys, we're almost 4 years into this thing now. You know what I mean? We're beyond that, but people are still buying it. So the question then becomes, okay, you've got all this dysphoria. You've got, some family members, I've lost friends because of my beliefs. And it's like, well, were they really friends is my question, because if they don't love me for who I am and what I believe, were they really friends, or were they just buying into this story of me that they had in their head? Some people were shocked. They're like, couldn't believe you stand on this side politically. I never thought that about you. You really surprised me. I'm like, well, whatever gave you the idea was the other way. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. So you have to take it all in stride. And I learned this, my very first Tony Robbins event was Unleashed the Power Within. It was 1995. And I had gone through that. And when I came back, I had grown emotionally like 10 years in like a 4-day period. And I came back and all my friends disowned me. They didn't know me anymore. They knew me as the shy guy, but all of a sudden now I'm not shy anymore. Now I'm talking about getting on radio and television and doing all this. They're like, that's not the Rob we've known all these years. They didn't know what to do with it. So they disowned me. Eventually they came back. And this is the key lesson here. So all those family members who don't buy in and not believing it, as the quote unquote conspiracy theories unfold and they become reality, no, they're no longer conspiracy, now they're reality, they're starting to come around again. I'm getting calls, Lee, I know you are as well, getting calls from friends who haven't talked to us in years and said, the common thing is, Rob, how did you know? Right? You're hearing that, Lee.
I am. I'm hearing that a lot. I want to bounce back to the media thing. My background is I've had 3 television shows myself, and I've been on a national television show, and I was so naive, Robert,
I know.
that just thinking, it's sort of like when you grew up and you watched, lawyer shows, and of course the whole thing's wrapped up at the end, and you expect everybody to tell the truth and stuff. So I expected the media to be honest. I was jaw-dropping, terrifying, shocked of the lies and the manipulations and the threats to all of us who were working these shows about, here is the agenda, these are things you can say, these are things you cannot say. And by the way, this is decades before what's happening now. And what really actually made me quit the media was they sponsored a beauty contest for young girls. And so I was sort of forced to be one of the judges, and there were 8 judges. And at the end of it, we did our voting. And we all knew who voted because we voted out loud. And that person didn't win on the show. Wow. And we're all like, what the hell? We're all looking like this, we're trying to run up to the stage and, you said the wrong thing, and they're pulling you back saying, no, that girl's winning because her father spent the most money in advertising, and he's a very wealthy man, so she wins. Well, by the way, Robert, of the 8 contestants, she should have been number 8, like the worst contestant in looks, in dress, in talent, in everything. And I remember thinking, I literally cannot be part of this deception. And so I started bowing out. And fortunately, I have other talents and skills and things that I can do, like you know, speak and coach and write books and stuff like that. So, but I also really realized, like you, being in the media, that our whole world, since the moment of everybody's birth, you've been programmed to believe the authority of television. And so I wanted one of the questions, and we're going to get back to all of this what we're talking about, was the whole thing that the CIA did, the what was called Mockingbird.
Right.
So
Yep.
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that at all, about how the television really, controls everything.
Still goes on to this day, by the way. They get their talking points apparently at 4 a.m. in the morning, according to 107. They have their talking points for the day, and if they stray from that, they're taken off the air.
Yes, and I'm sure you've seen those collages where
Yeah.
there'll be 25 heads of newses all over the world, and they're saying exactly the same phrases. The
They
only
all
thing
got the same facts, right? They all got the same script. And they don't even bother changing it. They just put it on the air just like that. Now, the problem we have with media is that when you look at media, right, you look at these beautiful faces on those shows and you think, my God, they're so authoritative. The lighting, the camera work, the sets, the millions and millions of dollars they put into those sets. You got to say, how could they possibly be lying to us? They come across with such authority, but these are paid actors, right? These are not journalists. And you know that if you went back and watched the morning show on Apple TV with Jennifer Aniston, right? If you saw her in that character, they said it was very accurate to what a morning show is really like. So she's the main anchor. And where did they show her more often than not? She was either at home, she was on the set, or she was in her, get this, dressing room, never in the newsroom. The dressing room didn't have any computers, didn't have any fax machines. She had her cell phone, but she was texting personal stuff the whole time. And all she was doing is getting her hair and makeup done.
Right.
So this is the person that's on camera, and all they do is they read what's in front of them. They're actors. They literally are actors. Yeah.
So you've said something very empowering that everybody should pay attention to, is, that we've been trained to admire these people and watch these people. During the pandemic, I would do my best to attempt to educate people on things that were going on. And there were people who would listen to me. There were people who completely rejected me. But the people who occasionally would listen to me would actually sort of wail in despair and say, I don't even want to live if the people that I've admired and trusted and believed in are lying to me. I just cannot accept in my heart that my doctor or my government or the news would lie to me. And my response was always, well, why wouldn't they? They have the ability to do so.
Let's see. Every show you watch on CNN is sponsored by who again? Who sponsors all the shows?
Yes,
every show.
All of the pharmaceutical companies. So anyway, I have to have some compassion in my heart for people who have been brain locked into a certain view of things. And I always say to them, have you read history about the United States? Because I'm a history buff like you are. And the thing that broke me about being completely besotted with the United States was really learning how they treated the American Indians, how they killed the infants, they slaughtered them. It was all a big plan to just have power. And we're not going to go into those gory details here, but once you learn what they will do to one group of people, that just means they will do it to all groups of people.
Correct.
And
then we're seeing it today.
We are seeing it today. And so And I've lost friends and family, you've lost friends and family, and we certainly have, you know, attempted to give evidence of questioning. But I believe that people get to a point where they're so brain locked into this is the view of reality. And I don't know if it's Juan oh 07 or I believe it is Juan who says that between 6 and 8% of the population, when this is all over, still will not be able to see the truth, no matter what's on television, no matter who's in charge. They're going to stick to this until they die.
This is identity politics, right? You hear that term thrown around a lot. Excuse me. And you're wondering, okay, what does that mean? Well, when you use the words I am, that becomes part of your identity. So when you say I am political party, Democrat, Republican, or whatever, it becomes part of your really your character and who you are and how you identify. And you will defend that to the death, literally. To be able to say, well, you can't be a Democrat anymore because they're all corrupt, for some people would be an abomination. They couldn't even imagine a life like that because it's become so much a part of who they are, right?
Right.
So this thing, they would take on these identities. Some people would rather die than change it. I mean, that's the honest truth of it.
Right.
Some people are going to go, okay, maybe I was bamboozled. Maybe I was lied to. We didn't know how bad it was. I always thought, like you, that our country was the least corrupt of any country, right?
Yes.
I always thought we were the best because that's all the messaging that we got growing up. And now, because of the internet, because of independent journalists and all the rest, we're starting to see, wow, we're pulling back the cover. I mean, if Donald Trump left any legacy, right, the one thing that he did that nobody else did was he pulled back the curtain and he allowed us to see the level of corruption at all levels, right? So in essence, he really was the catalyst to all the crap that we're going through right now. Sort of good, bad, right? It's one of those things like, maybe if we didn't go through it, we'd still, we'd have Hillary Clinton as president, we'd still be corrupt, but we wouldn't know it. We'd still be in ignorant bliss. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, it's a hard thing to wrap your head around. Every one of our news people is lying to you. Well, they're paid to do that. They're doing their job. Their role is to sit in front of the camera, read the teleprompter. Don't vary from it. Just read the teleprompter. You don't do it, we cut your contract. You do it, we pay you $25 million a year. What are they going to do?
And I still know some broadcasters today, and after very close examination and testing them out and, feeling around, they're not interested in knowing the truth. They have an agenda. They feel comfortable with the agenda. They're making a lot of money being stars in their world, and they're happy campers as they are. They do not want to rock the apple cart at all about this. And when I've said,
blame them though, I mean, they've reached that level of success financially and so on and so forth. They're getting praise from all their peers, right? Why in the world would they change at this point?
Exactly. And even the doctors, my doctor of over 20 years retired last December, and she had pushed a lot of the cures. And I had said to her, that's not for me. I don't take a flu vaccine. I don't really take anything but vitamins. And as a matter of fact, whenever she would give me a prescription, she would give me a prescription for something, and on the way out, I would sort of drop it in the circular file on the way out.
Good for you.
And she caught me one day and she said, "You're throwing that away?" And I went, "I don't need it. I'm not going to take meds. I'm healthy. I know my body." And I'm using this example because Robert and I both felt something was amiss without knowing what the heck it was, but something was amiss in 2020. And I remember when they started talking about all the cures, I'm like, why would anybody do that? I mean, that's ridiculous. It's unproven. It's an experiment. But the big kicker for me was there's no liability for the people giving the cures. None. They don't have, if bad things happen to you, you're on your own.
Yep.
You signed, you were willing to take an experimental thing. And
you and I would love to run a company like that, wouldn't we? No responsibility whatsoever.
Absolutely. Yes. Where can I sign up for that? But you know what? We really wouldn't sign up because we both have this called integrity gene. You know, we have an integrity gene.
So true.
And
So
that
true.
probably, and that's why we like each other, because, you know, it's like, yes, I could benefit financially and all these different ways, or maybe be famous, because everybody wants to be famous, which is ridiculous because most people I know are famous, it's like hiding from the public. But anyway, um, we just kind of have a gut knowledge that something is wrong and not to go forward. Um, I have lots and lots of stories that are just, you know, mind-boggling like you do, but let's start, where I derailed you a little bit. Let's start with, okay, so we've accepted that we have brain dead people who are brain locked, who've been programmed from birth to follow certain authorities, and now they're being programmed, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. So we've lost friends and family. So how first, tell me how you emotionally dealt with being ghosted and, you know, I don't want to be friends with you anymore and that kind of thing.
At first, there's three levels to it. So at first it's shocking, right? It's like, I've known this person all my life, and now all of a sudden they won't talk to me. Family members who won't talk to me because I didn't go along with the jab thing, right? And they're just, I can't believe it. What are you thinking? And all of that. At first it's a little bit shocking. It's like, what? And then you go through a period maybe where you're angry, right? That would be phase two, is you're angry at them. It's like, how could they? How dare they? It's like, I've been in their life all these years and we've been great friends and everything's been really close. And now because there's one issue, you disown me. That's horrible. And then the more mature place to be and where you want to get to is where you actually feel sorry for them, right? You have compassion because they've been lied to. They don't know they've been lied to yet. They'll figure it out, but they don't know that yet. More and more coming around to realizing, yeah, this wasn't what we were told it was, and they're coming around. So I have compassion. When I see the person in the store with the mask, I don't laugh at them, right? I don't get angry with them. I say it's sad. It's just really sad that, they bought into the narrative and they still believe that the narrative is true, although it's not. And it's easy to understand why. As we talked about, the media looks very authoritative. They've been taught all their life that, there's no corruption in the United States. We're as clear and transparent as ever. When Obama was in president, he said, we're the most transparent administration ever. And truthfully, the opposite was true. They were the most hidden and clandestine, behind closed doors administration ever. But that's the messaging that we've been brought up to believe in. So now you get to the point of compassion. Then you go, okay, I'm not mad at them. I haven't locked anybody out of my life. I blocked one person on social media because the attacks were personal. I don't block them because they disagree with me. Disagree with me all day long. We're a free country. You're entitled to your opinion. I respect that. I respect that you have an opinion. Stand for something, right? I don't care what it is. Stand for something. Don't be wishy-washy and let other people make the decisions for you. I respect that in a person. Great. But the personal attacks are not warranted, right? And so you don't go there and you say, okay, I have compassion. I understand, where they're coming from. I understand that the media they're listening to. Turn on CNN for 20 minutes if you haven't done that, and just look at what they're being exposed to. Their neighbor here who has CNN on 24/7. They sleep with it on. It's on all day, all night, 7 days a week, constantly. Never turn the TV off. Well, you know which side they're on. You know what they're believing to be absolutely true. Why is that? Because it's reinforcing their beliefs constantly. And, you can't be mad at them. You just got to say, I feel sorry for you. I mean, if I were to bring you to Real America's Voice or listen to Steve Bannon for 20 minutes, their head would explode,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yes. Um, I got kicked out of my hairdresser of 20 years, and I don't mind telling you, I have like this fabulous hair. So I was the greatest advertisement for this the salon, and people will stop me all the time and go, "Oh God, who does your hair?" Because they
Yeah.
think something that the salon is in charge of my body growing this hair. But anyway, and I, on an average year, could bring 30 to 50 new clients into their salon.
Wow.
And I came in one day and didn't have a mask on because I didn't wear a mask. They insisted I wear the mask. And I said, all right, well, I just need my hair done. So just put me in the corner. And I'm over in the corner in the mask, it's fogging up my glasses to read. And I brought it down. And the guy came over and screamed at me about I was killing his grandma in the nursing home who was, 50 miles away. And then so that happened, and they
That
didn't
was
kick
the
me out
narrative,
yet.
right? That's the narrative they bought into. Yeah.
And the next time they wanted to take the temperature thing and put it on my pineal gland, and I said, no, 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 no,
No,
no.
no, no, no. No
If you
lasers.
have to do it, you can do it on my wrist. Well, then they printed out all the stuff that their machine said that the only accurate readings was on the forehead. So I completely refused all of that. And then I said, look, I'm not backing down. I have a right not to do these things. I have a right not
Yeah.
to say any of this. So anyway, they came over
Whatever
and said,
happened to HIPAA, right? HIPAA would say that nobody has the right to know your
oh,
body
well,
temperature.
HIPAA doesn't exist
I
anymore.
know.
So anyway, they said, you need to leave the salon. And I just started laughing and I said, you are kidding, right? I mean, I am literally your biggest advertisement you've ever had. And she said, no, you need to leave. And so I hope you enjoy this as much as I did, but I stood on top of the chair as I ripped all the stuff off and screamed to everybody, how many of you agree with kicking me out because I have an opinion? They're all just shaking in their boots with their mask on, except for two ladies who said, this is outrageous. And anyway, I said, when I left, I said, hey, when I leave here, I will never come back. By the way, my average hair thing a month was like $300 plus tip.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just add that up over 20 years.
Mhm.
So, so anyway, I got thrown out of my bank for not wearing a mask. I've been thrown out of all kinds of things. And I just laughed every single time, like, you guys wear what you want, do what you want, 6 feet apart. I don't care. I'm not, if it would sit, if the arrow said go right, I'm going left. And I did that to be a pain in the ass for everybody, so somebody would notice that somebody is objecting to these insane rules. Now, was it the
Courage is
smart?
contagious.
Pardon?
Courage is contagious. We know that. Yeah.
Absolutely. My husband's words every day when I would leave the house is, you know, you don't have to piss everybody off.
Well, maybe most.
I said, well, that's my job today. That's what I'm going to
That's
do.
right.
I'm going to leave
Well, I
an
think Dan
impression.
Kennedy taught us too. If you haven't pissed off at least 2 people before noon, you're not doing enough, right?
Well, I'm always on target with that. So it's like you, I had neighbors who would come right out and ask me, have you had the cure? Using other words.
Mhm.
And my trick with my neighbors would smile and go, I'm good. That's it. I wouldn't say I had or I had. I'm just like,
None of their
I'm
business,
good.
actually. Yeah.
And they all took it to mean yes. But then when one neighbor actually said, well, does that mean you did or you didn't? And then I told the truth. And she said, well, you're never allowed in my house again. Stay away from me. Never speak to me again. If we're walking the dogs, you and your unclean dog go to the other side of the street. So anyway, she has long COVID today and she's taken everything. I
Mhm.
mean, she's got,
Immune system's damaged. Yeah. We know now what's happened. Yeah.
I mean, she is sick all the time, but it hasn't, none of the marbles have connected to her, Robert.
Yep.
Like most people.
Yep.
And the other thing most people don't want to know now is that things they believed in, which are unraveling at a massive rate, they don't want anything to do with that. And so you and I represent those things, and all of us who is listening today represent that there's a hidden truth getting ready to come out. You're getting ready to be seen as you made a faulty decision, and there'll be resentment for the people who tried to tell you not to make that decision.
Yeah, they double down. I really thought they'd come around, but the truth is they're doubling down on it. It's a little bit like the analogy I've been using for many years here in California. The ground shakes here once in a while, right? And everyone's good and solid. Everyone's doing really well until that happens. And when you can't count on the ground under you being solid anymore, it really, really rattles people in a really interesting way. For a couple of days, they're a little bit, you can tell they're a little bit off, because when they feel that ground shaking, it's like, the thing I always believed was solid, was going to support me, isn't anymore. Now it's rattling, it's rumbling, and who knows, it's going to open up and swallow us up. Who knows, and it rattles them. And this is the same thing with their belief system. Their beliefs are I did this. I was committed to it. I went, I got the first one, the second one, I got boosted, I got double boosted. They thought they were doing the right thing. And now to hear that they were wrong is hard. And it's disheartening. And I don't talk about the damage and the side effects with somebody I know who has it, who took it, because what are they going to do? They can't get it out of their system. There's no way to detox it yet. So what am I going to do? Just scare them to death? That doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
Let them be.
Yep. I'm having to take that position of just let them be. And I have on an upside, I have gained friends like you.
Yep.
That maybe I would not have met, in the circumstances. You invited me to be on one of your shows, which I was very excited about. But so one of the solutions that I've come around, and you actually just said it, was I just talk about other things. I try to find, something when I'm around these people that is sort of neutral or sort of positive, or just focus on what's good in life, because again, we cannot erase some of our mistakes of the past, but we can certainly, try to lay down some harmony and peace of mind, to be peace with your neighbors, peace with people around you, your family, your friends.
We'll have to add to what our parents taught us. Don't talk politics, don't talk religion, don't talk vaccines. You're gonna have to add that third one now.
Right. Yes. It's an interesting time of for me and you and I have talked about this personally, just in sort of catch up calls. Some days I'll be perfectly fine. And then some days I will feel completely overwhelmed with the sadness of the things that are happening in the world. There are things that trigger me about feeling sad that these things are happening. But I do have to remind myself the only power I truly have is the power to control myself, to control my own vibration, to control how I react with other people, how gracious I am or kind, or, all those kind of things. And I have to tell you, in the beginning, I was a little mischievous in the fact that I was mad at people who wore masks. And I was
that was the common reaction. Everyone was, right?
And I was mad about people who were standing in line, be 6 feet apart. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing any of that stuff. So, I was truly born a rebel, and my father really promoted it with me. It upset my mother to no end that my father was like, oh, let her be. When she gets grown, she'll clean herself up.
Never happened.
Never happened.
Well, the thing that's going around right now is sort of an interesting theory that the people who were our friends and family up until this whole thing happened in 2020 are changing now, and we're going to have new friends, which you're a new friend, and I have a lot of new friends that I've met on the Truth Tour and such, that are really because we have so much in common, that the connection is like instant and it's solid. It's not like, well, we're not really sure. And I was talking about this idea, and we always talk about being authentic and being authentic, right? And I said, okay, these people who disowned me, they disowned me because I wasn't being authentic, right? I wasn't sharing my political beliefs. I wasn't sharing what I really thought about the economy. I wasn't sharing about some of the things that, those people found, offensive to them. And the reason they were friends is because they thought I thought like they did, but it was never talked about. So they had an impression of me, which was a public facade, which wasn't real. And now it's much more authentic, much more real. And the people who come into my life now, bam, solid, instant friends, lifelong friends. And you can tell the connections there. We exchange phone numbers, we're getting on calls. You and I will pick up the phone and just chat once in a while for no reason, just to say hi. It's fantastic. I love it, right? And this wasn't happening in the past. It was a very different experience. There were friendships, but they weren't deep. And I'm just learning now that's like, wow, being authentic is different than what we thought, because I always thought authentic was, I don't lie. Okay, great. I'm not going to go out there and tell any lies. I'm going to be honest. But are you really being honest when you're hiding some of your core beliefs, which are represented in the political spectrum, right? Core beliefs are, we want a vibrant economy. We want people to be able to have the freedoms and do what they need to do. We want, their gun rights to be respected. Those are core beliefs. They're reflected in politics, but they really reflect who we are. So being authentic is not hiding that stuff. I know so many people are still hiding it because they're afraid. I got asked this week by a mutual friend of ours about that. And he said, how was it that when you came out and started talking about this stuff and you lost friends and lost clients? I said, yeah, but I've also gained new ones, right? So which side of that coin do you want to look on? And the ones that I lost, were they really friends? Because they didn't really know me, obviously.
Yes,
You know?
yes. That's a very good point. I really kind of ponder on that for a few minutes because I can see where I didn't say to certain people that were old friends that I voted for so and so, and I know that they didn't vote for so and so, or um, I didn't really say that, but I kind of broadcast. I mean, look at my life here. I sort of kind of broadcast who I am all the time, and I was very vocal about other parties' insanity a lot. And so, but I think they just took it as, oh, that's Lee just being Lee. And because I can be quite the contrarian, I think,
Mhm.
to certain people. And they just sort of accepted that if they had one opinion, I was going to have another. But this really, this fear that was embedded in every person that they could embed it in, the fear is so deep. And so here's where they've lost touch, I believe, with their own internal soul. That if we really do believe that we're an eternal soul, there is no death, there is just transformation.
Mhm.
And I'm a woman whose husband got killed on Christmas Eve. So I have dealt with death in very most horrible ways. And I actually understand how hard that is. But it's as painful as it was when my husband got murdered in our front door at our house on Christmas Eve, um, break in. Um, I knew that he was fine. He was fine. He was going back into, the divine. And with all these people shutting off their life, shutting off all their blood connections, all their friends, over this fear of I might catch really what was the common cold flu. And they built it up to this point of, that everything was about the death counts every day. I mean, you knew people who every day tuned into, oh, 942 people died today.
Yep.
Every day that's what they listened to. And I thought, well, these people have completely lost touch with the humanity of we're all going to pass. But are you a warrior? Are you a wimp? And I think most of these people are serious wimps.
Well, the more you bring fear into that, people they stop thinking for themselves, right? And then they rely on government, and that's one of the tools that they use, and all religions use it, and everyone who wants to keep you trapped, if you will, use fear. And they put fear into the system, and then people go, oh, I can't do that. I don't have permission, right? And that's what school taught us. Schools taught us to fear authority, right? The teacher had the right. If you had to use the bathroom, you had to ask permission to go to the bathroom rather than just get up and go. You know what I mean? And so it's been programmed into us from a very young age. And what isn't programmed into us, and this is where our school system really fails us, is the ability to think. So in school, we want to pass. What do we have to do? We read, we memorize, and we're tested, and we repeat what we memorized. That's all it is. What's
and then they
happening
all
today?
forget it. They forget all of it.
10 minutes later, yeah, because you're doing anything with it. So as adults, you and I can have conversations with people, and we can tell right away where they're getting their news from. Why? Because they're listening and they're repeating same words, same way, same narrative, and they're missing the point of analyzing it, right? We never learned how to think analytically and critically and really, decipher things. And I've always been very analytical. My brain has always been like that. Okay, so they said this, but does it make sense? How does this dot connect to that dot? And if it doesn't connect, then I either know I'm being lied to or I'm missing some information. We do that today with everything that's going on. And you're gonna have to think critically to deal with everything that's being thrown at us and say, okay, what's real here? Now, when COVID came along, immediately it was like, okay, here's the narrative. It's fear. It's way out of proportion for what is actually happening. That we're seeing the numbers. The numbers were, minuscule. And then they start to ramp up the numbers, make them worse and worse because people weren't buying it. And I knew right away, it was like, this is a game. Guy walks into the hospital with a gunshot wound to the head. He died of COVID.
Right. Yes.
Huh? What? You know,
Yes.
you knew right away it was fake, you know, and it's just because I had the ability or had learned to analyze the information, and people who don't just take it at face value. Lives are busy. They got kids running around, pets that need to be fed. They've got school, they've got work, right? They don't have time to look into it and analyze it. But in our day and age, if you don't, you're going to be lost.
So on top of analyzing it, because you're really good at that, I am more driven from an internal knowing. There's things that either feel completely true, or they feel completely false, or they feel neutral, which means I don't pick up much about them. All right, very good. Nice crystal.
Nice crystal. So this one helps me when I want to tap in. It's like it really just brings the energy through for me. So yeah.
Oh yeah, and crystals, I love crystals, and I
Yep.
have wads of them I can't reach right now, but they're all over the office that aren't really necessarily on camera. But I was very fortunate that my father was a rancher, and he was actually sad for him. He was deserted at his father's funeral at the age of 7 years old. His father died. His father was the first in our family to graduate from William and Mary, and he read. He didn't go to school to be a lawyer. He read and passed the test the first time. So he was a genius. And my father was deserted. And so because he was deserted, he had a great distrust for the system, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
And so when I was born, by the way, they wanted a boy, hence Lee.
Try again. Didn't get one this time.
They were shocked. They're like, "What? It's a female. What the hell? It's a ranch. We need boys." So he raised me actually as a boy. I mean, I could fight by the time I was 4. I could drive a tractor by the time I was 7. Shoot a gun really good by the time of 9. He told me I was the best son he had. But he was this rebel, and because I guess I wanted to be like my father, I adapted this very show me, don't tell me about life.
Yep.
And he was a very he would never call it intuition. He would call it instincts. I mean, he was a big 6'5", 200-pound, 250-pound dude. I mean,
intuition gets into the woo and people don't like that
yeah,
word.
he would never use the word intuition. My
women use the word intuition, men use the word gut feeling, but it's the same thing.
feeling.
Yeah.
But he actually used the word, it's my instincts about, because we had a ranch, that we need to bring, get this field cleaned or do up or harvest or something because of, the weather's going to be bad or things like that. And he actually encouraged me never to be average. Don't listen to other people. Listen to your gut. Listen to your instincts.
Yep.
And because I had that, and also he was always amused. I mean, I was in trouble a lot at school. I mean, I was a pain in the ass in school. I mean, complete pain in the ass, because all I did was say, how do you make money from that? How do you leverage that? I don't understand how I'll make a living and use this information. So my father was just like, okay, he was so proud of that. Now my mother was
I love it. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, my mother was exactly opposite of. So between the two, I ended up on this side of the fence. And by the way, my brother is not on this side of the fence at all. He completely is run by fear, run by what other people say. Yep. He felt very superior and morally superior to everyone, that he had done what the government asked him to do. And that is a thing that we really should.
What's taught in school? We're taught to be rules followers, right? And that's what you do as an adult. You follow all the rules, you check all the boxes, and then you get your gold star. But that's not life.
No, that's not life at all. And the repercussions of following people who don't have skin in the game is deadly in every sense of the word here. Because even now, where it's pretty obvious that the supply chain is, faltering. They're not, most people, what do you say? They have a week's worth of food.
If that. Most people have just a few days. Yeah.
I mean, they go to the grocery store either every 2 or 3 days, or some people go every day.
Yep. Yep.
They don't have any extra water. They don't have any extra food. They've not bought any alternative ways that you could have money with precious metals. In fact, I would say most of my friends have laughed their butt off about my interest in precious metals and how it could help me. They're like, "Are you insane?" Somebody actually said to me last night, "Robert, I just cannot wrap my head around the fact that you would take your money out of the stock market and put it in these, because that's going to accelerate and be worth more value in the
Even if
future."
it doesn't, it holds its value. So what you bought it for, you'll be able to sell it for down the road. If nothing bad happens, it rarely would ever lose its value, right?
Exactly. And I said, look at the history of precious metals, but nobody actually wants to look at history anymore. They want to think, though, the history of the last 5 minutes. I mean,
Well, it's the age of the TV dinner, right? Where did the TV dinner come around? Right? Because we wanted to be more productive and we didn't want to have to spend hours in the kitchen making dinner. So that was, the shortcut. So it's just accelerated. I think in 1981, when MTV came out, it was the first time we saw videos clipping really quickly. Like the edits are really, because edits in television back then, the scenes were really long, 30 seconds, and they'd switch cameras. And then MTV came along and said, bam, 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 bam. I'm like, whoa, what are we getting hit with, right? And it really accelerated our desire to have instant gratification. Of course, the internet helped with that as well, where, hey, we want something, we go on Amazon, we get it in a couple of hours, or someone at the door, here's your package, you know what I mean? So it's accelerated. So people want answers, they don't want to look back. History is being erased, getting rid of all our statues, and that's what a lot of the communists will do, is erase history. So we're seeing that happen. So it's hard even to go back. And now we're fighting so much to stay alive, to stay afloat. We're on the treadmill, but we're sprinting now. And there's no time really to look on either side and see what else is going on. And I think that's where a lot of people are getting trapped.
That's I always tell people this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint, but
Yeah.
you actually are very right. I'm as you, I'm dancing as fast as I can right now, with lots of eggs and lots of different baskets, you know, uh, trying to monetize and leverage things while we're in these very uncertain times. I have, like you, I work with small business owners and entrepreneurs, and they're rattled. And the ones that are rattled the worst are the ones who are actually not cognizant of the reality that's playing. They're still in the movie.
And that's their MO has been that. I know a lot of them in the marketing industry who, the focus is 100% on the business, building the business, getting new customers, doing that. And I'm not political. I don't turn into political. I don't care what's going on out there. I'm just doing this. That was okay up until 2020, right? When Governor Newsom here in California, I call him Emperor Newsom, said, I want you to close your business at midnight tonight, put the key in the door, and don't come back until I tell you. That was a wake-up call. That was, what do you mean I can't do business now? Because everything I was doing, I need to be in my studio for, and my coaching and webcasts and everything. And it's like, now I can't do business because of this unseen, invisible threat.
Which is outside. I'm in a studio by myself.
Yeah, that was very telling. And it was like, okay, I'm not doing that. I'm not shutting down. I got to keep going because this is my world, right? And it was one of those things that you think your business can just go and go and go, because in the past it was, whatever happened in Washington, did it really impact us? It was going so slow. It was like molasses. Yeah, maybe 5 years down the road. It isn't like that anymore. They make a decision, they sign an executive order, bang, the rules are changed tonight at midnight.
Right.
So you can't go through this and not be paying attention anymore, because it is impacting you. I mean, they tell you to shut down your business. Where's your backup plan?
Well, there was just so much mischief going on at that time, and people fell for it so hard. But from the get-go, I mean, literally, I'm not a news watcher, but I was watching some news at that time because Trump was up with the health people, and everything just felt completely whack to me. It's like, I don't know what's wrong, but this is not true. I don't know what's
Right.
not true about it, but this is not true, and I'm not playing. Um, when I when it first happened, I own a publishing company, so I had a building, you know, like a business office and a building and things. And I had staff who did not want to come in. And I said, well, that's fine, but you don't want to come in, there's no checks. Because if you don't come in, we can't get the books out, we can't get the things done.
You can't do that from home.
We can't do this from home. This stuff has to move. And so it was really shocking to me how
Yeah,
once you said, I'm not paying you if you don't come in, they would show up.
they'd show up.
Now,
Yeah.
looking like Darth Vader, by the way, but still, they would show up. And if that's fine, and
Yeah.
my had a big office and everybody had their own separate offices and you didn't have to share anything or touch anybody or any of that. But I was and I said to all
I would
my
have stood at the door and hugged them all as they came in, but that was just me.
well, I did put a sign on the door said mask not welcome, which completely confused everybody from the mail carrier, the UPS guy. Like masks are not welcome here. So
I
anyway,
put a sign in front of my studio and I said, "You're now entering a mask-free zone."
oh, I like that. I could have used that. So we only have a couple of minutes left, but I mean, I could go on for hours. Maybe we can have you back on in the near future.
Absolutely, love to.
Okay,
You and I,
so
you and I have such great rapport and great conversations, and we look at things the same way. And like you, at the beginning of COVID, first thing I did was muscle test. Okay, is this something I need to worry about? Oop, nope. Okay, done. I just take
yep.
that as gospel and I move on. Right?
So we might be able to come back and talk about muscle testing and things like that
Yeah.
because I'm a big muscle tester. Well,
Yep.
first, everybody, I want you to know that renegademedia.tv is how you can get right in touch with Robert. Is there any other ways you would like to share for them to get in touch with you? Our
Yeah, I think
wonderful
everyone
viewers.
should have a Telegram account at this point because Telegram is the only social media right now that is not censored. So if you don't have a Telegram account, get one. And then you can follow us on Telegram at Renegade Media as well. I'm posting there 5, 10, 15 times a day sometimes. I find news that other people don't find. And, I try my best to vet it to make sure that it's not just garbage because there's a lot of garbage out there. I sort through a lot of it and post a lot of things on there. So keep you informed. So at Renegade Media on Telegram is the other one to look at.
Well, I'm definitely on Telegram. I have been for some time, and I'm also on Truth Social. Are you on Truth Social?
I'm on Truth Social, Robert I on Truth Social, but I don't post there. I don't use that one very much.
Okay, well,
No
I'm
reason.
posting.
No reason.
I'm posting a lot there, and I am spending some time each day vetting. And I only post from people who I really, seriously believe are telling the truth.
Right.
And it's fun to watch, people following you. So I started at 0, and like in a week I went to 97 people, and then I posted a bunch of stuff and I dropped to like 65. It's like, who the hell is this Lee Milteer posting this stuff?
You're the wrong person. Yeah, wrong followers. Yep.
And then I kept posting it, and then all of a sudden it jumped right back up to, all these new people who, when I look at them, Robert, I have never met these people in my life. Like we talked about earlier, they're brand new people.
Yeah.
So again, folks, I want to thank everybody for being with us today. This is a brand new channel. It's a brand new show for me. We're learning how to do this, and I've got a lot of people who are wonderful, like Robert. And again, like and share about the show, and please, either subscribe to our network or be kind enough to give us a donation of some kind. Just because, literally, and I mean this honestly, all of us on the entire network are working completely for free to be able to create a situation where we can help others navigate these very challenging, turbulent, insane, crazy type times. So with that, thank you so much. It's all these things I'm supposed to do. And folks, I do have something that you might be interested in. It's called the Success Smarts Club, and it is for people like us. And it is all about truthers, and It's a mastermind, and it's also, I teach a bunch of mastery stuff on not only how you can do better in business, but how you can balance your life out a lot. And if you go to Milteer.com, Milteer, and you can sign up for my Gems of Wisdom newsletter, and you can check that out. We would love to see you. All right, with all the good commercials wrapped up here, thank you so much, Robert. Always fun to talk to you.
Thank you, Lee. Yeah.
All right, we're going to call it a wrap. Thank you. Lee Milteer out.